How are you finding the masterclass so far? Is it what you expected? Connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know what your thoughts are. Let's run through what I've covered so far. I've talked about why the traditional approach to operational excellence never lasts, how what we do is part of how the brain is structured to run automated type responses like a computer brain, why the brain is structured that way, so to survive and to thrive, and how ultimately the programs we have loaded into our brains can be written and rewritten through interpretation of past experiences. Now, you may be thinking, yeah, this is all great stuff, but I thought this masterclass was about how to build my own focused excellence system. I imagine you were hoping to get some specific things that you need to do to achieve irreversible focused excellence in your business. That's what we're going to talk about next. But before we talk about the what, let me just say something on the how. How you build your own focused excellence system is to do it in a way that supports and helps people develop the desirable actions and behaviors that coalesce the fulfillment of their own psychological needs with the fulfillment of the organization's needs. You can, of course, get high business performance for a period of time through the traditional approach I spoke of earlier. You can adopt the mindset of using people as a human resource to be consumed. And if and when the people aren't doing the required things needed for high business performance, then you could possibly change those humans for some other humans. But when you do that, you lose the experience, skills, and versatility that the first batch of humans hold in their heads, which will undoubtedly lead to a drop in business performance. It's also probably worth highlighting that this is usually very expensive in terms of recruitment costs and will undoubtedly impact customer satisfaction and perhaps cause reputational damage. To say nothing about the morality of using people in this way. If you don't want to do that, then let's take a look at the 4 things you should consider incorporating into your business improvement plans. This diagram describes what I call focused excellence. I call it this because it's about how you can take the needs of the business and the needs of the human beings who come together to make up that business and focus them together to create mutual excellence. The origins of focused excellence lie in 2 beliefs that I have. The first is the belief that everybody has an inherent desire to be motivated to perform at their best. Now, what they want to be performing their best at is, of course, a decision. The second is that for an organization to have sustained high performance, then it's an absolute necessity that it has highly motivated people performing at their best. So, on the face of it, there is a natural symbiotic potential in aligning the needs of individuals with the needs of organizations. Creating a focused excellence system is about building a capability so people can come to your organization and fulfill their own personal needs while also fulfilling the needs of the business. This is how you get highly motivated people to fulfill that inherent desire and direct that energy into the activities they do for the organization. At its heart, it's about mutuality. Traditional operational management systems and operational excellence systems are created from some form of an annual process in which the senior team with an organisation set out the objectives that the business must achieve that year, and also the tools and techniques that people will have to use to achieve those objectives. This approach does nothing to satisfy the inherent motivational needs of the people who will be doing the work to achieve those objectives. I've been around all sorts of operational excellence tools and techniques, and I know that when they're used correctly and accepted by the people doing the work, that they do exactly what they were intended to do. So the first thing you definitely need for focused excellence is the correct tool or technique required for the specific needs of the business, which will depend on the specific challenges they're facing. The worst thing you could do, by the way, is to try and adopt the latest on-trend technique that other businesses appear to be having success with. To ensure that you have the right mix of techniques, you should ensure that the framework which is created cover the following three categories. Proactive techniques, which are forward-looking, deliberate, and result in planned activities. Reactive techniques, which allow the organization as a whole to respond to the realities of life and business. And integrating techniques, which ensure that the whole organization is pulling in the same direction to achieve the same aim. I call the combination of these techniques focus techniques. This brings us to the heart of focused excellence. How do you focus the potential that somebody has within themselves and have them direct it towards the group or organization that they are a part of? In short, how do you inspire motivation? To do that, we need to fulfill two fundamental psychological needs that we all possess, which is to strive for goals and fulfill a mental image that we have about ourselves. These two complex needs are so ingrained in our survival and thriving instincts that we may not be aware of them. Like not seeing the wood for the trees type perspective, or not seeing the mountain that you're stood on while you take in the beauty of the view from the top. Goal and identity focused motivations are the drivers within us all that guide our choices in life. Most operational excellence systems will involve some process of goal setting. But to achieve irreversibility of the improvements that you make, you need to inspire goal-focused motivation in the people who will be doing the work. Here, the emphasis is on providing the things that people need in order to get behind a goal, rather than dictating what the goal is going to be and expecting the people to simply work to achieve it. To possess goal-focused motivation, people need three things. The first is to understand the rationale for why a business exists in the world. If it's just to make the owner money, then so be it. But you can imagine the level of engagement you'll get if that's the real answer. For people to really get behind a goal, they need to understand the why they're being asked to achieve it. Secondly, people need a clear understanding of what they're specifically being asked to accomplish. What direction are they being given? And crucially, how this relates to the rationale. Thirdly, people need to have the ability to take meaningful actions. This sounds obvious, but think about how demotivating it can be when you can't accomplish your daily tasks because of problems and hurdles that get in the way. To have the motivation to achieve a goal, it's vital that people be given everything they need to achieve it. Striving for goals is usually where I see most of the focus going in the businesses I come across. What's not given as much emphasis is on tapping into the energy we all draw on when we think about what we want out of life. Identity focused motivation relates to how people fundamentally sees themselves. People will become what they imagine themselves to be. If you're an ambitious person, or if you ever have been, think about the image you had in your mind about the person you are or were trying to become. It's powerful, right? Perhaps you see yourself as being the leader of the function you're in, or maybe even the leader of the whole business. Perhaps your image is one closer to home, and you see yourself as a provider for your family. And that's what gets you out of bed every day and what you draw on when your days aren't going so well. Some people allow the image of themselves to be curtailed, which only leads to suppressed negative feelings. But it's quite possible to allow people to fulfill a sense of identity while aligning with what the business needs from them in a symbiotic manner, which doesn't simply rely on a monetary exchange to hold the relationship together. To possess identity focused motivation, people need three things. The first is a sense of autonomy. If people feel like they don't have a choice on how to do things, then they won't experience an identity based motivation. Without a choice, you'll be tapping into the survival instincts we all possess, which drive a fight, freeze, or flight response. None of which will lead to an irreversibility of any changes that you were hoping to make. People must feel like they have a choice on whether to accept a change. Secondly, people want to become proficient at what they do. Whatever the image you have about yourself, do you see yourself being good at it or bad at it? I've never met someone who has a desire to be really bad at something. And the third thing people need to be able to do is to draw a sense of meaning from what it is they actually do. This speaks to the really philosophical question about what people are doing with their lives. In a similar way to how people need to understand the rationale behind why an organization exists, they also need an answer to the question about how they're spending their precious time that they have left on the planet. The fourth element of focused excellence is the one that turns it from achieving the potential of an individual to achieving the potential of an organization. It's also not something that you should think about engineering, but rather think about fostering. In the same way that a gardener can't create a plant, but can cultivate a garden, it's possible to build a focused culture. It's not enough for one person to do the desirable actions and express the desirable behaviors. It has to be everyone in the organization. And to cultivate a focused culture, you should put your efforts into establishing three things: shared values, shared beliefs, and shared habits. I talk in greater depth about each of the four elements of focused excellence in my ebook, details of which can be found on our website. Unfortunately, what I can't do in a masterclass video like this is give you some meaningful advice or direction about what you need to do in your specific organization. But what I can do is explain the approach you should take to build your own system. The first place you need to start is by taking stock of exactly where you are. We offer a free Focused Excellence maturity assessment that you can complete yourself. The link is on the screen and can be found on our website. It's a simple 16-question assessment with a yes-no somewhat format that will allow you to understand where your opportunities are for improvement. What you can then do is build a deployment program which contains the specific tools and techniques that will allow you to address each of the 4 things needed for focused excellence. Just as we have in this training session, if you want to build your own focused excellence system, you will need to take people on a journey. This includes the leadership community, by the way, and most definitely includes the senior leaders as well. You begin, as we have today, with awareness and a realization of the truth about where your business is in regards to achieving excellence. You can, of course, use the Focused Excellence Maturity Assessment for this purpose. From there, you provide your people with the necessary technical knowledge regarding the specific approach, mindset, and of course techniques, which will be used to create the system that will both optimize day-to-day activity and improve it continually. If you have the requisite skill set within your organization, possibly you possess it yourself, then you can take each of the 12 elements needed for focused excellence and generate this list of components required to make your own system work. If you do need support, however, either through increasing the expertise or knowledge of the people in your organization and or people to directly support the deployment work itself, then we at Focus Potential can of course help. Simply use our appointment booking tool, which can be found on our website, to arrange a free 25-minute exploratory session. We'll help you with your thinking in this session, and we'll only offer the support which we know will help you achieve your desired outcome. We have a range of services to meet any budget, so whatever the size of the change you're thinking about, we can tailor our approach to match. So if you need to enhance your proactive element of your focus techniques, for instance, then you might choose to deploy value stream mapping. Or perhaps if you need to increase proficiency, which will raise identity focused motivation, then you can look to use skills matrices and investing training budgets that focus just as much on individual needs as that of the business. Once this knowledge of what is needed and how to do it is given to people, it's time to give them the space to become good at it. People only excel at what they practice. So creating an environment where it's okay to experiment and fail safely is absolutely vital. This is what builds proficiency. From there, it's time to start the serious business of helping people with their interpretations of past and present experiences. As I mentioned earlier, this is what it will take to truly develop the actions and behaviors you need for irreversible focused excellence. This is what will give them the attitude to continue to do the things that work both for them and the organization. After that, it's about reinforcing the desirable actions so they become both routine and reliable. This is where the operational management aspects of your system come into play, and things like standardizations play a more leading role. After that, it's about reflection and celebrating the desirable outcomes and the valuable lessons from the things that didn't go as expected. This path can take as little as 12 weeks, but can often take 12 months, depending upon the size of the organisation and also the resources which are being applied to the change. What I typically find is that each phase is completed, there is a cause and effect consequence which begins to raise performance. Sometimes all it takes is for people to become aware of something, for them to take matters into their own hands and make changes for the better. These are your metaphorical low-hanging fruits. After that, simply providing somebody with the know-how is all they need to make more changes. Having the ability to practice without the fear of negative consequences will again drive further improvements, and understanding the reasons behind why they have always done what they do drive further changes still. So you can see how you will experience increases in performance as soon as you begin. This slide right here is the blueprint of how you can build your own focused excellence system. Now, you're nearly at the end of this masterclass now, with only one more lesson to go. Regardless of the specific system that you build yourself, what I talk about in the next video is the one component that is vital in binding it together. See you in the next lesson.